Good morning, Saintlanders. How are you? We hope that you're well. Today is the Friday, the 28th of October, 2022, and I want to tell you a little story that comes to a good point, but I'm going to begin with a couple of anecdotes that are, I think, quite powerful, albeit not directly related to the story. They kind of set the scene. Okay, let's go. I made notes. Okay, so it begins with this. Some years ago, I did business with a black woman. In fact, I'm going to call her a black lady because she's one of the classiest people I've ever met in my life. Just a fantastic woman. And she then, the business wasn't terribly successful, and she took a job at the SABC. Good job. She's a very distinguished lady. And we kind of lost contact for a couple of years, but maintained a mutual, I think, affection and a mutual respect. And then she contacted me and asked me if I wanted to try and do some business again. And I said, yeah, by all means. But what's the story? You've got a job. She said, no, I left. I said, well, why did you leave the SABC? Good job, nice money. Come on. There are harder ways to earn an income, a decent income, than working for the SABC. You must have been paid very well for your position. She said, yeah, but I couldn't stand the corruption. I said to her, really, is it that bad? I mean, who leaves their job and becomes suddenly without an income over somebody else's wrongdoing? Can the smell be that bad? She said to me, Simon, it's unbelievable how rotten the SABC is. And she gave me an example. This was one example, and it's slightly random. It's not really relevant to the ultimate point of the story, but she told me how she had something to do with the not the procurement, but receiving the procured product for broadcast, the programming. So people would go overseas to certain television festivals. They'd see what is the latest that's available. They'd go to the vendors, the agents, and the agents would say to them, okay, we've got the latest thing here. We've got the Cosby Show and the A-Team and Magnum. And then we've also got this thing here. It's a bit rubbish, but it's from the same producers. If you buy all four, you get them, for the price of three. And she said that's common practice. It's normal everywhere in the world. And she told me that the basement archives of the SABC television TV department are full of television programs that were never ever going to be broadcast because they came as part of a package. She said that's perfectly normal. She said what's not normal is how the SABC outlines, for the forthcoming year in advance, this is the kind of stuff that we want to show. There should be a lot of mixed race stuff. There should be interracial marriages. There should be lots of lesbians and gays, progressive, climate change. These are the themes and the type of stuff that we want to show. Because we're a free to air, there can't be any adult stuff, for instance, and there shouldn't be too much graphic violence, and so on. Criteria. And she reckoned to me that it's unbelievable how the people who are then sent to go and purchase according to those criteria just buy whatever they like. And I said to her, but how do they get away with it? She said, it's simple. They go overseas, they find who's going to pay the biggest bribe. So they go to these different vendors in a big hall, and they spend some time with them, have a cup of tea, deal with them a bit, and make it known that they'll buy if there's something in it for them. Right? So this is a South African thing. There's no surprise. I'm not telling you anything new. That's how the deployed cadres of the African National Congress roll at every level in our society, from the lowest municipal employee through traffic cops to, that's the ANC as we know them. And they then buy just according to the bribe they're going to get. Now, they get away with it by coming back home and saying, that's what we got, we tried our best, you know. And by the way, sir, as agreed previously, here's your $5,000 part of the the bribe. Anyway, that gives you a sense of perspective on the SABC. And it's just a random anecdote, really. We're going to get closer and closer to the point. I then did some work for the SABC, or I might have done it prior to that event, that conversation, in which it was important that we have a good idea of the SABC's audience ratings. And so they gave us the audience ratings. One of the directors of the SABC, board of directors, this woman was responsible for this certain project. And she says they're the ARs. And years later, I was in conversation with another black woman. It's relevant. And she passed some comment about the SABC, about AR's audience ratings. And I said to her, I know the ARs quite well because I had to study them. I was the guy had to carry that baby in that project. The guy actually had to know the facts, figures, data, and statistics. And I said to her, the highest, I can't remember exactly what it was. Not now. Not like 20 years later. But, the highest rated program on SABC television is Xhosa News. And the second highest is Setswana News. And the third is whatever it may have been. And the fourth, whatever. The stuff was still fairly fresh in my mind, and I might have even had it on my computer. I might have looked. And fifth or sixth is the Zulu News. Now, I was unaware. I knew her well, but I didn't know her family lineage. So I knew her as a Setswana speaker. Presumably a Setswana person. Who cares if I say something about the Zulus that's not nasty? It's a statement of fact, academic, dry, clinical fact, but not flattering. I said to her, and I think the Zulu News comes in at about number 6 or 7, which is, obviously an anomaly because the Zulu people form such a large proportion of South Africa's population. And she put her head in her hands and she said, my people, whatever are we going to do? There will never be hope for us. Or words to similar effect. I hope that if she ever sees this video, she doesn't feel that I've been dishonest in my quotation. It might not be spot on, but it was words to similar effect. And I could tell that she was so sincerely, earnestly distraught that I began to feel uncomfortable. I later learned that she's half Zulu. So she took it quite personally. And the point that she was making is, so I left her. I felt so uncomfortable by her obvious earnestness. I mean, she was earnest about that emotion, that I just walked away, mumbled something and walked away. But the point that she was making was very clear. How are we ever going to get anywhere if the biggest portion of the population, biggest ethnic population group, the biggest language group in South Africa, and proportionately huge, in a nation of so many ethnicities, the Zulus and the Xhosas are demographically very, very dominant. And yeah, how are we ever going to get anywhere when you don't even watch your news? We're going to remain in ignorance forever. Okay. So that gives you some perspective on demographics and broadcast. Demographics is an important thing. Now, I do a lot of research on YouTube. I'm just glancing in the rearview mirror, as it were. That's not research. That's the Fisher Random Championships. Hikaru Nakamura, if you're into chess, admitting that Magnus Carlsen is a beast. They played yesterday and drew both matches, but Hikaru was astonished that Magnus was able to force the draws. Or in the way that he was able to do it, when Hikaru was firmly convinced that he had the upper hand. Anyway, so that's not research, but I do a lot of research on YouTube and BitChute and Vimeo and so on. Tons. Many hours every single day. For instance, this morning I woke up early and I've watched Vladimir Putin's speech of yesterday twice. If you've seen it, you know that that's like 6 hours-ish, the speech and the question and answers afterwards. And so I see a lot of advertisements, and I hate them. And I've got it down, I'm going to lean over if you don't mind. I've got it down to a fine art to skip the advertisements. Seriously, forgive the vanity, but it's vanity, not conceit. In other words, it's not false vanity. If it's vanity, it's valid. I am the master at skipping advertisements. I can press the OK button on the remote control, not every time, but I can get it right to skip the advertisement between the number 1 when it counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and the skip advert thing appearing, that little sign. So there's nothing there. I've skipped it. Boom. I hate them. But what I've picked up over time, that was a bit slow, is that YouTube thinks that I'm a young black female, probably with children, maybe married, but likely employed in something more than menial labor. So I'm somewhat educated, I'm somewhat aspirational, I don't have a lot of money, but I want to buy toys for kids, I want to buy makeup all the time, I'm interested in mediocre clothing, it's not high fashion stuff at all, but you know, maybe I'm working as a whatever, a PA, who knows, as a clerk somewhere in a government office. And what else am I keen on? I buy presents for kids, did I mention that? Makeup, clothing, hair extensions. I'm crazy about hair extensions. And so it goes on. Almost every advertisement, I'd say 90%, are clearly skewed to black people with very little duality. In other words, for the most part, it's either black or female. And between the two, they kind of work together to eradicate the possibility of it being a white male. So I could be a white female as far as some of the advertisements are concerned. As a female, I have maybe, whatever, let's say dresses, in common with black females. But then I'm not a male. So between the two, they kind of cancel out the possibility of me being a white male to the 90th percent. And there's some advertisements like the one with Puppies, where he's driving in the little hunched up, you know, too big for the cab, in the little old, I think it's a Mazda Bucky. That one I can really, really skip. Yeah. Anyway, so YouTube have worked out that given that I watch so much geopolitics, and so much, like when I take breaks, I'll watch chess, and so much material in high English, like BBC radio stuff, high English, good quality English. I must be a black female, because that's just about all I watch, right? Black female, probably with kids and probably young. So, what is the flaming advertisement that I am seeing more than any other right now? It's for a toy for young girls. It's called the booty shaking pup. Now, because I skip these blasted things all the time, I had to, like 100 times, and I zone out. I'm quite good at making myself oblivious to the rubbish. I had to see it like 100 times, those first 5 seconds, before it dawned on me what the blasted thing is. It's a toy puppy dog that shakes its backside. And in the background are 3 or 4 little girls, prepubescent, I'd say 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, young girls, shaking their asses in sympathy with this toy, which when you press the button, it's a little puppy. Just wobbles around shaking its ass. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is twerking. It's twerking, which is the word. I saw this thing, Super Bowl in recent years, Miley Cyrus. There was some scandal, so I clicked to see what is it. On my news feed, she was, I don't know, something happened, but incidentally to all of it, here she is shaking her backside, and we learn the word is twerking, which, as you know, is a very African thing. I'm not disparaging it. I'm not. Honestly, I couldn't care less. I just couldn't care if black women like to shake their asses as much as they can, simulating some kind of sexual connotation when dancing or when whatever. It is very distressing to me that it is infecting our women. Why? Why? It's clearly not classy. I'm not saying that you can't. I mean, what I'm saying is, if it was a revelation of a higher level of human behavior, of something superior, of something elevated, of something aspirational, something that takes our civilization forward, something that improves the human condition. I can understand you adopt it from any culture. I have a friend who is a photographer, and he used to take lots of photographs for me as a project manager of special events. So when there needed to be a photographer, I'd always get him. And he and I once had a bit of a dispute, a quarrel? No, just a friendly dispute, a good-natured dispute. He's very religious about Chinese medicine. He had a family member who was very, very ill, and I had done 2 different courses of Chinese medicine shortly before, and that helped me very much. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And I said to him, hey, you should really think about going to see these people. They're good. They're really very, very good. And he said to me, I don't believe in all that Eastern medicine. And I said to him, bro, it's got nothing to do with Buddhism. I said, and if you look hard enough, and I can refer you to the books, I'll give you a shortcut, make it easy for you. Buddhists find the yin and the yang and the this and the that in everything. In everything. And that never stopped you buying firecrackers or writing with pen and ink. He didn't like that. He just kind of shut down, and I left it. It's his business, not mine. My point is that sometimes even our culture, our everything, as successful as it is and has been so successful for so long, even we can sometimes learn from other people. The Christians of the 17th century, 16th century didn't turn down gunpowder because it was invented by Buddhists and Confucianists. They took it just for what it was. They didn't impute any Buddha chanting, yin, yang. Yeah, it's just that. It ends there. And so too, if there are no prayers and incense and what have you involved in my treatment, it's just a guy saying, hey, 3,000 years ago, some people discovered that if you manipulate this muscle, you break the covering of the muscle, and that allows the muscle to reassume its normal shape, the shape the form it had when you were born, and which has been perverted or warped over 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of sitting in a chair or whatever the case may be. And so we fix you up, we'll just massage it. It ends there. Boom, accept it, take it. Take gunpowder, you never know. One day maybe we'll use it to be the most militarily advanced society in the history of the world. But twerking is not that. It's base. It's base. There's nothing superior to recommend it. I'm not saying I'm not base. I have terrible flaws. I'm so sorely tempted to tell you guys a story. Right. So my point is just that I'm seeing how, by the way, these are not all little black girls in this thing. How can you do that to children, man? These little girls are standing in the background emulating, mimicking, impersonating the actions of the puppy. How can you teach a 6-year-old girl to shake her ass, man? If my daughter, I don't have a daughter, but if my daughter said, hey daddy, look here. I just don't have the temperament. I don't have the personality to handle it well. Just do not. End of story. Mother would have to intervene, because I would thrash the daylights out of her. Sexual provocation. That is sexual provocation. Don't dissemble, don't dissimulate, don't prevaricate. That is sexual provocation. At the age of 5, 6, maybe you think your daughter's more advanced. You give it to when she's 4, the booty shaking pup. Hey baby, can you shake your booty like the puppy? Come, show daddy. Maybe you want to do what flick your skirt up at the same time. How base does it have to be? Where is the line drawn? You think I'm disgusting for what I've just said? So where's the line? Tell me. Send me a message. Man. And I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if we, as a people, do not discover unity in the Son of God, these oaks are going to ride roughshod over us. There are things that I can't say. Whew, I'm going to say something now, which is true, so I hope it's not controversial in the mind of anybody who watches this. There are truths, demonstrable truths, empirically demonstrable truths. That means they can be demonstrated through scientific means, through numbers, empiricism, numbers. How many molecules, how many atoms, how fast, how heavy, how the indisputable truths that I can't talk about, but Kanye West can. That's your clue. I can't say more than that. Kanye West can. Kanye West, the rapper, can. But let it suffice to say that the research that I do empowers and enables me to understand, to have a fairly good idea of the program against Christendom through which we are going now. I started saying some years ago, 5 years ago, publicly, this is a satanic plot. And people would look at me sideways. Oh, yeah, satanic plot. It is a satanic plot. Everything that we're witnessing. And so when I say these people will ride roughshod over us, let me tell you that it is not an incidental, an accidental, a coincidental thing that the people who lie behind this stuff now feel safe enough to promote. I mean, you know all of it, LGBT, what. Including puppies for 6-year-old girls that shake their booties, with the little girls shaking their booties in sympathy, in literal English, in sympathy with the puppy. This is no coincidence. Believe me or not, scoff or not, sneer at the things I say, look down your nose, you will see it with your eyes, as if you're so profoundly stupid that you haven't seen it already. I'm looking at cancer deaths. I'm reading an article on it. And let me tell you, it is 100% part of the same larger program as the booty shaking pup. And I can demonstrate that better than anybody could dispute it. Sadly, I can't talk about it. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this long video. We live in dark times, guys. Really, we do. Anyway, all of the best to you. Thank you. If you wish to support our work, please visit saintlanders.org. You'll find it very easy to make a contribution to the work that we're doing. Goodbye, and God bless all of you.